So I'm recording this. This will be available on YouTube. I recorded the earlier session as well. It will also be available on YouTube. I'll probably post those tomorrow. And that way you can have access to them. So, so for questions 22, 23, and 24, I'm going to show you 2 ways to kind of answer those types of questions. And then it should be helpful for when you are doing the question 25, which is the heparin protocol, and understanding that. So question 22 states, you have an order of 0.45% normal saline, 1,000 milliliters IV with heparin, 25,000 units, and it's set to infuse at 1,000 units per hour, but you want to know what that is in milliliters per hour, or you're being asked to convert that to milliliters per hour. So step 1 is I recommend writing it out as 1,000, or starting off with your flow rate that's indicated as 1,000 units per hour. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a conversion, because I don't want units, but I do want milliliters. I have a 1,000 milliliter IV solution that contains 25,000 units of heparin. And that is how I want to set up this problem. Alternatively, you could also write this as 1,000 units per hour divided by the 25,000 units as your available times your quantity of 1,000 milliliters. So there's 2 ways to set up this problem. Both ways are correct, and both ways will get you to the correct answer, which is, let me put in my calculator. $1,000 times 1,000 divided by 25,000, which is 40 milliliters per hour. When we go through the heparin protocol in just a moment, you'll see that it's pretty much the same format. You're going to go from units per hour to milliliters per hour. Let's look at 23. 23 is a similar question. It even uses the same. I'm sorry, 23 is actually an insulin question. It says the order is 0.9% sodium chloride, 500 milliliters IV with Humulin R regular U100 insulin, 500 units to infuse at 10 units per hour. So following the same strategy I mentioned before, I'm going to start with the 10 units per hour. And then I'm going to use what I have available, which is the 500 milliliter IV. And then within that is 500 units of insulin. Alternatively, I can set it up like I did up here, the 10 units per hour divided by the 500 units times the 500 milliliters. Either way, you're going to get the same answer of 10 milliliters per hour. Then finally for 24 is, you've probably seen this question before. You may have seen it last semester, but they may have asked it differently. They may have not asked you about the start time, like if it starts, on a certain time, when will it end? So for this one, it tells you the order is half normal saline, 1,000 milliliters IV. It's infusing at 50 milliliters per hour. The IV starts at 8 a.m. on Monday. At what day and time will it finish? So I'm going to take my 1,000 milliliters. I am going to take my 50 milliliters per hour, so I can find out how many hours, and that actually ends up being 20 hours. And so I know it starts Monday at 8 a.m. I want to know when it ends. So if I look at my 20 hours, 24 hours would be Tuesday at 8 a.m. So I just subtract 4 hours from that. So it would stop at Tuesday at 4 a.m. And that's how you would do that. So 22 and 23 were the main ones I wanted you to see before we do 25, but now you've also seen 24. Let's move on to 25. 25 has some things associated with it that might seem like you're like, what am I supposed to get from this? So first of all, I'm just going to highlight the important areas for this question. So you always start off with, this gives you the protocol. Okay. You need to know the patient's weight. You're going to convert the patient's weight in pounds to kilograms at some point. You need to know step 2 of the protocol. And you need to be familiar with step 10 of the protocol, which just repeats what it says up here, where it says, bolus the patient with heparin 80 units per kilogram per body weight. Additionally, you're going to need to review the APTT section when it asks you to do that. On your test, when you take your exam, you're going to get 2 parts to one question. So the heparin question, the heparin protocol has 2 parts. You're going to calculate a bolus and you're going to calculate an IV drip. So you're going to do those 2 things. And what I gave you on the practice is I actually gave you 4 questions, or 2 sets of 2 questions. So I gave you parts A and B, which is most likely what you'll see on your test. And then I also gave you parts C1 and C2, which is just another version or variation. But when we look at the protocol a little bit deeper, it accounts for the APTT. All right. So in order to start and solve this, first of all, these are the questions. So calculate the number of milliliters to administer the bolus, calculate the infusion rate in milliliters per hour. So we're going to do those 2 parts first. Before we do anything, we have to convert the patient's weight in pounds to kilograms. So I'm going to get a fresh sheet of paper. So we have a 110-pound patient. I'm going to convert that to kilograms by dividing by 2.2, and I'm going to get 50 kilograms. If you get a question, and the way you'll see this varied is the heparin protocol, really the only thing that can change is the patient's weight and then what the APTT is. So you might get a patient that weighs 170 pounds. You might get a patient that weighs 94 pounds. You might get a patient that weighs 237 pounds. You would just convert that patient's weight from pounds to kilograms, round the kilograms to the nearest tenth, and then do your calculations. So for part A, I'm going to calculate my bolus. So I have a 50 kilogram patient. And in order to calculate the bolus, I need to know a piece of information. That piece of information is going to be found either at the beginning of the protocol where it says bolus the patient with heparin 80 units per kilogram body weight. Or if you look at step 10 of the protocol, it says bolus with 80 units per kilogram. Start the drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. I will also mention that we can actually ignore steps 3 through 9 because math-wise, we don't need that. We don't need to fill that in. That's not what the questions are asking. We just need to know if you're in a clinical setting, you're going to need to know that information. But from a math perspective, we just want to know to do the math. Okay, so 80 units per kilogram, that is our bolus dose. So let me go back to this. 80 units per kilogram. And I'm going to get 4,000 units. So my bolus dose is 4,000 units. However, it doesn't ask for units. The question says, how many milliliters will you prepare for the bolus? So I got to go back to the protocol and I got to look at it and I got to find out what's my available for my bolus dosage strength. So one of the first things I look at is in step 2, it says heparin 25,000 units and 250 milliliters, half normal saline. That's my IV. That is the information I need in order to calculate my flow rate, milliliters per hour. The bolus dosage strength is listed here as bolus dosage strength, 1,000 units per milliliter. So I'm going to highlight that in a different color. That wasn't the best color. I'm trying to get a lighter color. I know you get it. Hopefully you can still see it. So the bolus dose is 1,000 units per milliliter. So get out of here. I don't want units. I do want milliliters. 1 milliliter, 1,000 units. 4,000 divided by 1,000. So my answer for my initial bolus dose for a 50 kilogram patient is 4 milliliters. So that's how you do the first part of the heparin protocol, or the heparin protocol question. Part 2. The next thing I need to calculate is the infusion rate, milliliters per hour. So I'm going to use the same patient weight. I'm going to go back to the protocol. This is obviously easier if you are doing like a side-by-side or something. Which I'm sure I can do. I just haven't figured that out yet. Anyways, it says to start your drip or your infusion at 18 units per kilogram per hour. Okay, so 18 units kilogram per hour. 50 times 18 is 900 units per hour. Remember in question 22, it said going from units per hour to milliliters per hour for heparin. It's the same strategy. Now I'm going to take, and I need to get rid of units, and I need to know what milliliters, but I'm not going to just guess, and I'm not just going to use what they used in question 22. I'm going to use what it says in the heparin protocol. So again, going back to the heparin protocol, it tells me I have available heparin 25,000 units in 250 milliliters, half normal saline. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use that information. 25,000 units. 150 ml. I'm going to take 900 times 250 divided by 25,000. And I'm going to get an answer of 9 milliliters per hour. We'd set up and solve every heparin protocol pretty much exactly like this. The only thing that's going to differ is the patient's weight in kilograms. So like, let's say I had a 45.45 kilogram patient, then that's going to obviously change these numbers. And you may even get something like 4 or 3.7, milliliters as your bolus. You might get 7.5 milliliters per hour. You can have that to the nearest tenth. In the real world setting, you might fall within certain guidelines, but for the math perspective, that's how you would just round to the nearest tenth. Any questions about how I set up or got to the answers for part A or part B?
No.
Okay, thank you. And also, if you don't answer, don't worry. I assume that the answer is no if you don't answer. But thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's look at the next set of questions. So going back to our protocol, you can see that the protocol says, so we did part A and B. Then it says after 6 hours, the patient has an APTT of 43 seconds. So what I'm going to look at is where on my protocol does it show me the range for 43 seconds? Well, that's right here, question or number 12. So if I go to part 12 in the protocol, that tells me I have a range of 36 to 44 seconds, which is the APTT that I'm paying attention to. And then it tells me what to do with that APTT. It tells me to rebolus the patient with 40 units per kilogram and to increase the rate by 2 units per kilogram per hour. So my original bolus was 80. Now we're dropping it down to 40. So we're going exactly half. So if we did 4 milliliters to start, it is true that we will go to 2 milliliters for the rebolus, but we'll still work out the calculation. Then with the increase in rate, we're going to take the 2 units per kilogram per hour. We're going to add it to the 18 units per kilogram per hour. So if initially it was 18 units per kilogram per hour, with the new information, now we're going to increase it to 20 units per kilogram per hour. So let's take a look at that. So same patient, same weight. This time it's only 40 units per kilogram. Now I'm going to get 2,000 units. Because 50 times 40 is 2,000. I'm going to use the same bolus dosage strength. And then just as a reminder, my bolus dosage strength is listed in step 2 of the protocol. It says bolus dosage strength 1,000 units per milliliter. 1,000 units per milliliter. And I'm going to get 2 milliliters as my number or for my rebolus. So basically we're doing another bolus. They're not responding, or at least they're not responding as we would like. And so we're going to help them to stop bleeding or stop clotting, having more heparin. Then we're calculating the new infusion rate. Remember, it said to increase the original by 2 units per kilogram per hour. What was our original? 18 units per kilogram per hour. So we're going to increase it by 2. So 18 plus 2 is 20 units per kilogram hour. 15 times 20 is 1,000 units per hour. Then again, I need to convert units per hour to milliliters per hour. So I'm going to use the exact same available IV bag, the heparin 25,000 units and 250 milliliters, half normal saline. So I'm going to use that same amount. the 25,000 units, 250 mLs, half normal saline, and I'm going to get an answer of 10 milliliters per hour. And that is how you do these heparin protocol type questions. You can take a moment if you want to look over some of the other questions, or if you have any other questions about the heparin protocol, just let me know, and we'll work through them.
Well, I have a question. So number 25 is 4 parts. So like with our prior test, we only could get 2 wrong. How does it work for this 25 question number 25? So if you get this one wrong, is it considered 1?
So on your actual test, when you take this, you'll only have 2 parts to answer. So it'll either be A and B, or it'll be C1, C2. Most likely it'll be A and B. You need to answer both parts to get the one question correct. So if you miss the both parts, then you missed only one question. But if you miss one of the 2 parts, you still miss the question. So you'd only miss one question. So if you got them all right, but you missed number 25, that would only count as one question. So to answer your question, it's still 25 questions total that count towards your passing. And then this question just happens to have 2 parts to it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. It's a good question. Sorry for the extra noise there.
Well, I don't have any other questions. And I appreciate you going over those questions with me.
Oh, you're welcome. And like I said, if you have any additional questions, or after you go through the practice test, if you have any additional questions, I'll be here again on Thursday.
Okay.
For 2:20, 2:30, I'm here at 1:15, and then I'm again at 5. You can also email me if you have any additional questions, and yeah. And then if I don't hear from you and you do well, I just good luck on your test. And but I'm here if you have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a blessed day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
See you.